Skull Island is a place of raw, untamed power. It's a land that time forgot, a brutal environment where survival is a daily struggle. Jagged mountains pierce the sky, their peaks shrouded in a perpetual mist that clings to the ancient rock. Down below, dense jungles pulse with a primal energy, a living, breathing labyrinth of giant trees and prehistoric ferns. This isn't a place for the faint of heart. Every shadow could hide a predator, and the very ground seems to vibrate with the footsteps of monsters. The air is thick with the calls of strange birds, and the roars of creatures that should have vanished millions of years ago. It's a brutal, beautiful, and utterly unforgiving world. In this realm of titans, two kings hold dominion, their authority absolute and unchallenged. King Kong, the island's ape monarch, is a creature of immense strength and surprising intelligence. His fur is as dark as the jungle night, and his eyes hold a deep, ancient wisdom. He patrols his territory with a sense of duty, a guardian watching over the smaller creatures and the delicate balance of his kingdom. Then there is Godzilla, the alpha predator of the deep, a force of nature made flesh. His colossal form often rests in the island's deep coastal waters, his dorsal fins slicing through the waves like a row of jagged mountains. He is the island's ultimate protector against external threats, a living nuclear deterrent whose atomic breath can purify any danger that dares approach from the sea. The daily life of these two kings is a study in contrasts, a rhythm of peaceful coexistence governed by mutual respect. Kong spends his days navigating the treacherous highlands and dense jungles. He forages for giant bamboo, his powerful hands snapping the thick stalks with ease. He is a solitary figure, yet profoundly connected to his home, often seen observing the island's ecosystem from a high perch. Godzilla's routine is simpler, more primal. He patrols the island's perimeter, a silent, colossal guardian, ensuring no offshore threats disturb the island's sanctity. Sometimes, on a clear day, you can see his immense form gliding through the turquoise waters, a dark shadow moving beneath the surface, a constant and reassuring presence. Despite their different domains, a silent understanding exists between them. They are not friends in the human sense, but allies bound by a shared purpose, the preservation of Skull Island. They have clashed in the past, their territorial disputes shaking the very foundations of the island. But from that conflict, a truce was born. They learned to respect each other's power and territory. Kong rules the land, and Godzilla rules the sea. This balance has kept the island safe for years, a sanctuary for creatures that exist nowhere else on Earth. Their reign has brought a strange kind of peace to this savage land, a stability maintained by the sheer, overwhelming power of its two dominant kings. The peace on Skull Island was shattered without warning. It began not with a roar, but with a chilling silence. The jungle, usually a cacophony of sounds, fell eerily quiet. Birds stopped singing, and the smaller creatures scurried into hiding, their instincts screaming of a new and terrible danger. A shadow fell over the land, a long, slithering darkness that emerged from the deepest, unexplored chasms of the island's underworld. This was no ordinary predator. It was a creature of nightmarish proportions, a giant anaconda, larger than any serpent that had ever crawled the earth. Its scales shimmered with an oily, dark green luster, and its eyes glowed with a malevolent, hungry intelligence. This colossal serpent was a cataclysmic threat to the island's delicate balance. Its sheer size was an ecological disaster. It consumed everything in its path, swallowing entire herds of prehistoric creatures whole, leaving behind a trail of devastation. Trees that had stood for centuries were snapped like twigs as it moved, its immense body carving a path of destruction through the once pristine jungle. The rivers turned murky and foul as it slithered through them, its presence poisoning the very water that sustained life. This was not a predator hunting for survival, it was an invasive force of pure consumption, a gluttonous horror threatening to devour the entire island. Kong was the first to sense the disturbance. From his mountain throne, he saw the path of broken trees and felt the unnatural tremors in the earth. A deep, guttural roar of anger and challenge echoed through the valleys. This was an invasion of his home, a direct threat to the kingdom he was sworn to protect. His instincts, honed by countless battles, told him this was a foe unlike any he had faced before. The scent of the serpent was alien, a smell of deep earth and decay that did not belong in his vibrant jungle. He descended from the highlands, his massive fists pounding his chest in a declaration of war. His territory had been violated, and his fury was absolute. Godzilla, resting in the deep waters offshore, also felt the change. The vibrations of the Anaconda's massive form, moving across the island floor, traveled through the bedrock and into the sea. He rose from the depths, his colossal head breaking the surface with a surge of displaced water. His ancient eyes, burning with an inner fire, fixed upon the island. He could sense the fear of the land itself, the disruption to the natural order he was sworn to maintain. A low, guttural growl rumbled in his chest, a sound like distant thunder rolling across the ocean. An intruder was threatening his sanctuary, and the king of the monsters would not let it stand. The island's two protectors were now on high alert. The time for silent understanding was over. Now was the time for a direct alliance. Kong, knowing he could not face this colossal serpent alone, made his way to the coast. He stood on the black sand beach, a stark silhouette against the crashing waves, and let out a series of powerful, deliberate roars. This was not a challenge, but a summons. It was a call he had never made before, an admission that the threat was too great for one king. He was calling for his rival, his equal. He needed the power of the sea to help him defend the land. It was a risky move, a gesture that could be misinterpreted as a sign of weakness, but the island's survival depended on it. Godzilla answered the call. He emerged from the ocean, his immense body rising like a new landmass from the sea. Water cascaded from his dark, rugged hide as he strode onto the shore, his heavy footsteps shaking the beach. He stood before Kong, the two titans facing each other, the air crackling with their combined power. There was no aggression in their stance, only a shared sense of grim purpose. They looked at each other, a non-verbal communication passing between them. They both understood the stakes. They could see the path of destruction the Anaconda had carved, and they knew that if they didn't work together, there would be no Skull Island left to rule. Their plan was simple, brutal, and effective. They would use their combined strengths to corner the beast. Kong, with his agility and knowledge of the terrain, would act as the bait. He would draw the Anaconda out of the dense jungle and into a more open area, a massive ancient clearing surrounded by steep cliffs. This was Kong's territory, a natural arena where his mobility would be an advantage. Godzilla, with his overwhelming power and atomic breath, would be the hammer. He would move along the coastline, cutting off the serpent's escape to the sea and preparing to deliver the decisive blows once Kong had it cornered. The two kings moved to their positions, a coordinated effort of two apex predators working in perfect sync. Kong bounded into the ravaged jungle, his movements surprisingly swift and silent for a creature of his size. He began to taunt the serpent, letting out thunderous roars and crashing through the trees to draw its attention. Meanwhile, Godzilla waded back into the ocean, his massive form creating a tidal wave as he moved. He swam parallel to the coast, his dorsal fins glowing with a faint, threatening blue light. The trap was set. The kings of Skull Island were ready to hunt, and their prey would soon discover the folly of invading their home. The battle began in the heart of the island. Kong's taunts worked perfectly. The giant Anaconda, arrogant in its power, rose from the jungle to meet the challenge. It was a horrifying sight, its head as large as a building, its forked tongue tasting the air. Kong met its charge with a furious roar, using his agility to dodge the serpent's lightning-fast strikes. He grabbed hold of massive boulders and hurled them at the Anaconda's head, trying to disorient the beast. The serpent retaliated by trying to encircle him, its massive body a crushing wall of muscle. Kong was strong, but he was being forced back, the sheer mass of the Anaconda proving almost too much to handle. Just as the Anaconda began to coil around Kong, a brilliant blue light cut through the jungle canopy. A searing beam of atomic energy slammed into the serpent's side, causing it to hiss in agony and release its grip on the great ape. Godzilla had arrived. He crashed through the tree line, his eyes burning with radioactive fury. The Anaconda, now facing two angry kings, was caught in the open clearing just as they had planned. It turned its attention to the new threat, lunging at Godzilla with its fangs dripping with venom. But Godzilla was a fortress of power, and he met the attack with a powerful tail swipe that sent the serpent reeling. Seeing his chance, Kong acted. While the Anaconda was focused on Godzilla, the great ape scrambled up the sheer cliff face of the clearing. From his high vantage point, he leaped onto the serpent's back, his immense weight driving it to the ground. He began to pummel its head with his powerful fists, a relentless barrage of bone-shattering blows. The teamwork was flawless. Godzilla kept the beast pinned with his immense strength and targeted blasts of atomic breath, while Kong delivered focused, devastating attacks. The Anaconda thrashed wildly, its death throes leveling the entire clearing, but it was trapped between the brute force of the ape and the elemental power of the reptile. In the end, the two kings prevailed. With a final coordinated assault, Godzilla unleashed a full-power atomic blast that scorched the serpent's hide, while Kong used his incredible strength to pry its jaws apart, ending the threat for good. The battle was won. Skull Island was saved. In the aftermath, the island was scarred but safe. The clearing was a wasteland, a testament to the brutal fight. A new understanding was forged between Kong and Godzilla, solidifying their alliance. They returned to their domains, the ape to his jungles, and the reptile to his seas, no longer just rivals, but true kings who had bled together to protect their shared throne.